Yo, 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 what's up, what's up? It's your boy, A. Today, we're going to talk about my favorite commander, Naru Meha. Let's get it. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you are new here, I am E and I create MTG content and budget streaming content. So, let's talk about CEDH, Naru Meha. Here's my deck tech and gameplay. So, if you are following me on my stream, schedule's right there. I'm actually doing a Tito CEDH league with our fellow uncles out there, playing CEDH gameplays and exploring other commanders. One of my favorite commander is Naru Meha. The reason why? Let's dive right in. Naru Meha is a 4 to cast commander, 2 generic mana, 2 blue, 3/3, and it has flash. And it says copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose another target for those instances. And it also is a lord, giving each of your wizards +1/+1. That may come in handy, maybe. The reason why I like this deck is because it can win at instant speed out of nowhere. Example, gameplay, right here.
I will frantic search.
Okay.
Response on your frantic search.
Okay, responding to frantic search.
Got him.
Wow.
Pay 3. 4.
Wow.
So 1 mana floating.
Okay.
Ghostly Freaker. 1 mana floating.
Fish.
Fish triggers, yes.
Oh
Okay.
no, combo na siya mga friends.
Target of the ghostly flicker.
This land and the mana vault.
It's over.
Okay, priority on the stack,
Trigger, priority in the stack, then
commander.
Naru Meha on the stack. Oh, there's a force of will, guys.
Negation.
There's a force of
Oh,
negation.
there's a force of negation. I tried, guys.
Wala. I'll pass.
The game ends.
It's over.
Explain Tito Erickson. Explain.
Explain,
Alright.
Tito Erickson. Explain.
Okay. So what will happen now is that since Ghostly Flicker is on the stack, Naru Meha can copy the Ghostly Flicker. And there's another Ghostly Flicker copy is on the stack right here, for example. That Ghostly Flicker will target Naru Meha and a land. In this case, I will be targeting Sunscorched Desert. They flicker both. Once the spell resolves, they come into play. They see another Ghostly Flicker. I tap for mana, hit you for 1 damage, infinite damage, infinite mana, and I win. As you can see, the deck is capable of winning the game on instant speed during any player's turn. So people will be worried about tapping out. Let's discuss how it's done. With all CEDH decks, we're going to subdivide this deck to 7 different parts. Part number 1 is Plan A and how it wins. Naru Meha's plan is to assemble its combo, 1 card combo, which is this. Ghostly Flicker. How it's done. Ghostly Flicker and let's say a land, say Sunscorched Desert. Sunscorched Desert says when it comes into play, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. You can cast Ghostly Flicker, targeting Sunscorched Desert, but before it resolves, you can then intercept it by casting Naru Meha. When Naru Meha resolves, it can see Ghostly Flicker on the stack and it can create a copy of Ghostly Flicker. The copy then resolves, it will see Naru Meha. You can target Naru Meha and the land. Okay? When that happens, before this resolves, you can tap this to produce 1 generic mana. So you have 1 mana count. When this resolves, both Naru Meha and the land flickers. So they're removed from the game temporarily and immediately is brought back upon resolution. Their ETB or enter the battlefield trigger triggers again. Naru Meha sees Ghostly Flicker on the stack and copies it again. Sunscorched Desert deals 1 damage to a target player, and you can repeat the cycle over and over for an indefinite amount of time, generating you infinite mana and infinite damage, theoretically. if you were to do it in paper magic. That being said, you can replace your sun-scorched desert with any land. Say for example, an island. In this manner, you cannot create an infinite damage, therefore you would need a payoff card. Let's discuss the payoff cards. Alright, one of your payoff cards would be Blue Sun's Zenith. How it works is you make sure to generate, say, $2 billion mana, cast Blue Sun Zenith, targeting yourself, making sure that you don't deck yourself. You draw your library, and as a consequence, this Blue Sun Zenith shuffles back to your library. Therefore, your library count is 1. You get to draw your library, and with that, you get to draw all your instant speed draw cards effect. Opt, Brainstorm, and Anticipate. Do note that when you intend to use Brainstorm, you need to have at least 3 cards in your library. Okay? Now, that being said, once this resolves, you can cast Whisper of the Muse with Buyback, or an Opt, or an Anticipate to get that card, which is Blue Sun Zenith, back to your hand. Once you get it, target your opponent, because it says target player, to make them draw their library plus more, eliminating that card. In Magic, if a player cannot draw a card from their library at any given point in time, they lose the game. Alright? Rinse and repeat for 3 different players, and you have controlled your pod. That being said, if Blue Sun Zenith somehow is taken out of the game, you can have different win con in the form of a payout, Walking Balista. Now, since you have infinite mana, you can cast Walking Balista for an infinite amount of XX counters. Note that when you're doing this, you can't do infinite mana for Walking Balista on instant speed. Unfortunately, you need to do it during your turn. But if you want to do it at end of turn, you can also use the Ape Invasion. How does an Ape Invasion work? Alright, you have Rapid Hybridization. That means that you can destroy target creature and create a 3/3 frog in replace of it. Or you can Pongnify 3/3 green ape. Destroy target creature. Functionally the same, creates 2 different tokens, but it's a 3/3. How it works is, once you have generated infinite mana at end of turn, preferably before it's your turn, so that nobody can do anything when it's your attack phase. Once it's your turn, you break the cycle. You've already floated infinite mana. This goes into the graveyard. You've floated infinite mana. Naru Meha comes into play, and you need to break the cycle. So you need to rapid hybridization your Naru Meha, shooting this and resetting the combo, putting this into the library, or putting this into the command zone. When that's done, you create a 3/3 lizard or an ape. In its stead, you can now cast Pongnify targeting that creature, and in response, you can cast Naru Meha targeting Pongnify. Once a copy is created, you target Naru Meha instead. Therefore, when Naru Meha is destroyed, you create a 3/3 beast in Naru Meha's stead. Naru Meha goes into your command zone, but because you already have infinite mana, infinite blue mana, you can recur and recast Naru Meha without thinking about the commander tax. Therefore, you do the cycle again. Comes to play, sees Pongnify, Pongnify target Naru Meha becomes a beast, another beast, so on and so forth. You create an infinite ape army at end of your opponent's turn, and during your turn, you just invade them with apes. Attack! Apes! Alright, that being said, you have another payoff. Once you have created an infinite mana loop, you need to break the chain. Say, for example, you need to into the royal your Naru Meha, or Chain of Vapor your Naru Meha. It goes into your hand. Then you can cast Winds of Rebuke. You can target any non-land permanent into play, but before this resolves, you can cast Naru Meha, targeting Winds of Rebuke. You create a copy of Winds of Rebuke, targeting Naru Meha. Therefore, you get to bounce Naru Meha, and you get to mill everyone in their deck. Just make sure your opponent doesn't have the Kozilek or Gaia's Blessing, which will recur their graveyard into their library. So be wary of those Git Frog monsters. That being said, this is not the only win con. This is Plan A. Let's go to number 2, which is Plan B. Plan B is the ever iconic Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal. Oldie but goodie, this is a proven and tested combo. However, this can still work on instant speed, right? How the deck or how this works is still generating infinite mana and going through the payout as mentioned in A, which is Blues and Zenith combo or your Walking Balista payout. Because Plan A is mana intensive, you need 7 untapped mana plus a couple more to protect your combo. You need to have ramps in the form of mana rocks, which synergizes with your Plan B. Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal. Now, let's go to section number 3, and that is mana rocks. The deck packs 10 mana rocks excluding the Sensei's Divining Tap. So as you can see, if you have any of this in play, you can do an Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal combo, untapping each of these. Let's discount these. Sapphire Medallion, that means it's actually 9. And you can generate infinite mana, provided that you can float 2. With each of these rock, you actually create a turn that can surprise your opponent, accelerating your Plan A turns earlier before you can execute. Let me give you a gameplay example.
End of turn. End of turn. Invention.
Yep.
No.
War of Invention. Go, sir.
For 1.
Yes. No.
I tried, sir. I tried.
Why? Natapos na ang pad, sir.
I don't know what's on the deck ni sir.
As you can see, at end of turn, we can tutor for an artifact in the place of War of Invention. Now, with this card, you can actually tutor, most famously, Mana Vault, Green Monolith, or Mana Crypt, accelerating your combo a couple of turns earlier, which is Plan A. Now, that being said, you can also tutor for your Isochron Scepter if you have Dramatic Reversal in your hand, thereby netting you the win in that instance. Now let's go to section number 4, and that is assembling your combo, which are going to be enablers. Enablers, in my book, are cards that can enable your combo that are found in blue in the form of tutors. The deck has 6 primary tutors. So let's discuss the obvious ones. Mystical Tutor basically says it can search either instant or sorcery spell, and you can put it on top of your library. The classic Merchant Scroll only searches for an instant blue spell, perfect for our Ghostly Flicker because it's an instant and it's blue. And Blues and Zenith is also instant and blue. That being said, long-term plan is also obvious. This used to be an intuition, however, since the deck is streamlined to work with Ghostly Flicker, long-term plans seems to be a better choice. It protects your library from combat mill tricks, at least, because it can put your card on the top 3, and you can brainstorm the card that you need. Spellseeker is a card or creature card that can search your library for a instant or sorcery spell. You can put it to your hand. You can search for these tutors, and then these tutors will search your Plan A. Now, please note that this is a wizard, so when worst comes to worst, this can attack. When Naru Meha comes into play, it is now a 2/2. Jumping on the human train wizard hybrid tutors, we have Trinket Mage to search for 1 or less. Therefore, it can search for your Mana Rock, as mentioned a while ago, and it can also search for your Walking Ballista for the win con. Finally, Illusionist Stratagem is unique to this deck because I consider it as an enabler, and how it works is you can actually flicker creatures into play, and the key word here is to draw a card. Therefore, when you cast an Illusionist Stratagem and you cast your commander Naru Meha at end of turn for 8 mana, you can now draw your library and all of your combo pieces will be in your library right there and then. Now that that's done, let's talk about number 5, and that's to protect your combo. Call it the protectors. Since you're playing blue, you're actually playing 17 counter spells. That's 17% of your deck. And here they are. Most of these are commander staples in the form of Mana Drain, Force of Will, Counter Spell, Misdirect, Pact of Negation, Swan Song, Fluster Storm, Delay, Narset's Reversal, and Force of Negation. Any of these on top, you can substitute anything further, like the deflection. You can either put in maybe Thwart or Foil, any of those. Anything that you fancy. 17 is, I believe, a right count for my end. Take your pick. They're all guardians or protectors, with one exemption. Muddle the Mixture can transmute for any Tuto cast in your deck. This can also search your library for an Isochron Scepter and its combo, Dramatic Reversal. Therefore, Muddle the Mixture is both an enabler and a protector at the same time. Such a good card. As with any CEDH decks, let's talk about card draw and card filters. Admittedly, for this deck, this is one of the weaknesses of the deck because it doesn't have a recurring card draw, unlike Necropotence. For those decks that can play Necropotence, Ad Nauseam, the deck doesn't have access to those. However, the card filter is powerful enough to supersede the minute weakness in my books. Let's talk about them. That's number 6, and these are your card filters or card draws. Because you are playing blue, you have a very, very strong base for these types of effects. The trifecta of card filters, you have Ponder, Preordain, and Brainstorm. For any CEDH decks that runs blue, this is an automatic staple, alongside Windfall. Quicken is an option card. This is just so that I can play all my decks at instant speed. That's why I like putting this card, but you can replace it. Fact or Fiction is in the same capacity. You can replace this one with other better cards that you may have. Deduction Probe is simply a must for these types of strategy, especially if you're playing against a fellow blue player. Information is key. Impulse and Dig Through Time is sort of a mediocre in my books for card filter and card selection and card draw. Let's talk about the non-instant sorcery card draws in the form of Narset Parter Veils. That is a slight combo with your Windfall. Once you have Narset into play, it shuts down your opponent's Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora. Plus, when you Windfall, you are the only one who can benefit with that card draw. Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study is a staple on CEDH format. When you're playing blue, it's always prudent to cast these as early as you can. I even slammed it on turn 3.
Card and tap, upkeep, draw. I will then play land, another island, Rhystic Study.
Oh crap.
Responder before so take 1 from underground.
Brainstorm.
Up lang.
Up. Okay. Gotcha.
Bottom. So wait,
Any
wait,
spell
wait,
though,
bottom
whenever
up.
an opponent plays a spell. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's bottom. Then I'll draw a card. Yes, sir.
We got it. Okay, that's it. Okay,
That's
guys.
it.
Alright, cool. Here we go.
Turn 3, and I won that game. That because the earlier they are in play, the better it is for you because the yield for each card of this will be better as time progresses. Especially if you're playing CEDH where the turn to win is always turn 4. Putting this into play as early as you can merit that you have an additional card advantage when the card counter war occurs. So don't be shy to slam them. Plus, your opponent will be hesitant to counter these types of cards, especially if you're playing blue. Now that that's done, we can talk about number 7, and I call this the supports. These cards are a plethora of utility cards and support cards to reset your combo. Let's talk about them one by one. Since your plan A revolves around your commander, it is prudent that you need to protect your commander and reset, quote unquote, reset your combo. Riptide Laboratory is crucial to this reset strategy, and it has the ability of pay 2, tap, return target wizard you control to owner's hand. Naru Meha being a wizard, when it comes to play, it becomes targeted with something else. Bounce it back with your Riptide Laboratory. Or if you need to break the chain and you don't have a Pongnify or a rapid hybridization in your hand, just bounce it with your Laboratory. With the addition of Eldraine into the CEDH mix, it gave us an excellent card, which is in the form of Mystic Sanctuary. Being that you are a blue deck, you don't have enough or access to cards that recur from your graveyard to the top of your library or to your hand as green does. Therefore, Mystic Sanctuary is a godsend. So whenever you have expended your Ghostly Flicker and it goes to your graveyard, you can actually fetch for Mystic Sanctuary. Given that you are actually mono blue, you should have 3 islands into the play. Mystic Sanctuary triggers and resets your Ghostly Flicker in the top of your library, or your blues and Zenith, whichever you need. Speaking of utility lands, these cards are special mention to the strategy. You have Cavern of Souls, which is making your wizards, because most of your cards are wizards anyway, making your commander an uncounterable force to be reckoned with. And Ipnu Rivulet. This is actually a card that I preferred putting in as a main board sideboard. For those decks that does a lot of tutors, put it on top of library in the terms of like Imperial Seal or Vampiric Tutor, and then in response you can actually mill them, making their tutored card or expending their tutored card 2/1 for a land. Not bad. The final points on my utility phase, you have Mission Briefing to serve as your second copy for Snapcaster Mage, making sure that you may have a counterspell in your library or your graveyard that you want to recast at a one-time cost. Should be fine. Same is true with Snapcaster. You have your Gilded Drake to exchange for any pesky commander or creature that is in play. Say the new release of Hull Breach, right there. You can exchange it for Gilded Drake, and creature's now yours. Phantasmal Image. Copy any creature of the battlefield. Therefore, if your opponent has again the new Commander Legends creatures, you can copy them to have a copy of your own. The other thing is you have a High Tide and Castle Vantress. When you are top decking or top deck mode, you can use this. And High Tide definitely accelerates your gameplay. On turn 4, you can win with High Tide on hand. Alright, this wouldn't be a TDE tutorial without a bonus tip.
Bonus tip.
I'm going to show you some tips and tricks when playing the deck. Number 1, don't forget or don't be shy to slam in your card draw enchantments, as I made mention. Number 2, don't be shy to slam early your Isochron Scepter, even if you don't have a dramatic reversal in your hand. Note that Isochron can only imprint instant cards. So a recurring Mystical Tutor, a recurring Muddle the Mixture, recurring Remand, recurring Delay, recurring Mana Drain is good enough to slam with your Isochron Scepter. However, that doesn't mean that you can't win because you already expended your Isochron Scepter with Plan B. We have different tricks for that I didn't mention on my previous phase. Our deck also plays Sculpting Steel and Pyrexia Metamorph. Now, remember, if you already cast an Isochron Scepter into play, putting in this value place right here, or even just going basic with your card draw selections right here, Brainstorm and Impulse, once Isochron Scepter is in play, you can search your library for a Sculpting Steel and Pyrexia Metamorph, copy your Isochron Scepter. Now the imprint comes into play. When this comes into play, it targets your Isochron Scepter. It becomes a copy of your Isochron Scepter. The imprint resolves. Now you can imprint your Dramatic Reversal. Neat. And my last tip, and certainly not the least, don't forget that Naru Meha is a creature. It is a 3/3 commander and therefore can deal commander damage to your opponent.
Nice.
Alright.
We survived!
Alright, your turn. I tried.
Untap. Upkeep. Take 1 damage from my mana vault. Then draw for the turn. Rebuke.
Okay. Oh, you still have that Gilded DI. No.
Oh yes.
Oh, oh,
Oh,
Sabay
no.
ang
Snapcaster.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
We good?
Okay.
Snapcaster
Okay.
comes in.
Mostly clicker.
Mystic Tutor.
There.
Okay.
Searching. Liberty.
Foster.
Commit. Memory.
Oh. Okay.
Ouch.
Is it
Tito,
memory?
you're about to die.
Ano man? I don't know.
Put it on top.
Tama Yuriko.
Oh!
Championship moves.
GG.
Attack. Yuriko. Dino.
Tito. Ilan na total?
10.
Ah, damn. I'm
Damn.
also dead.
Let's enter. Topic 10.
Take 10. Oh, ang charap. Charap.
GG.
In that clip, you could see that my Gilded Drake did work. At the same time, Naru Meha did enough damage to eliminate our opponent. Just don't be focused on the combo. Go back to the basics and think about how Magic is actually won and played without the combo. Alright, I hope you enjoyed our primer. The complete deck list of this deck will be in the links in the description down below. I put in all the points that I've discussed here into that article, so if you have the time, come and visit the website. I hope you enjoyed this primer. Other deck techs and gameplays are right here. As always, stay safe.
Okay.